Yo, what is good, boys? Welcome back to the Cree Talk. Today we're going to be going over Proverbs 6:10 through 11, and that says, "Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one that traveleth, and thy want as an armed man." Right? So it's pretty much talking about the moment that we begin to slip, right? The moment that we begin to fall into laziness and slothfulness is the moment that poverty will attack us like no other, right? And this is what I see so many people doing, right? These people in Miami, these people that are blowing up, right? They hit success, and the moment that they do, they haven't built themselves enough, their personal development enough to get to the point where they are stable for life, right? Where they have enough self-control to know that if I become a multi-millionaire right now this second, I will be able to sustain it, right? I won't fall into the lifestyle, right? I won't fall into all of the vices and the habits that can distract me and pull me down that path of laziness, essentially, and not doing the work that got you there, right? So many of these guys, bro, they start hitting 10, 20K a month, and they just immediately fall off, right? They start spending a lot of money. They start slacking off and not doing the work. They start partying more. They start drinking more. They start smoking and doing drugs. They start focusing on women more than their business. All these different things. And this is what it talks about right here in the Bible, bro. In the Word. It's literally saying it right here. That when you fall into these vices, when you have built something up for yourself, a business, a sustainable business, right? And then you finally say, oh, you know what? This morning I'm not going to wake up early. This morning, from now on, I'm just going to start waking up at, in the afternoon. Nothing's wrong with that. But if you have built yourself to the point where that is where your discipline comes from and you don't have anywhere else to vent it, say, I stop waking up at 5 a.m. and I start waking up at 10 p.m. or 10 a.m., 11 a.m. I need to find another route in my life to outpour my discipline into, right? I must be doing that for a reason, okay? Because if not, I'm gonna start slipping down that slope, right? So when I start, in the future, bro, when I start not waking up at 5 a.m. every single morning, because I'm gonna get to that point, bro, like I just don't need to. I'm gonna spend more time on my business to make sure that my discipline's locked in. The only reason why I have woken up every single day at 4:30 and 5 o'clock for over a year and a half now is because I needed to build that foundation of discipline, right? But so many people get to that point where they're in their success and they become comfortable with themselves. They become comfortable with themselves, and that is their downfall. That is what leads them to making one decision to the next, to the next, to the next, to eventually them slipping off the cliff and falling off completely, right? So we must not fall into laziness. We must watch what we do, because when you become successful, when you start making a lot of money, right, you're on the 1% of people, but you can very easily fall back into the 99% if you don't keep up with yourself, if you don't stay with God, if you don't keep in line with God and with His mission for you, right? But the moment that you fall into laziness, the moment that you fall into complacency and saying, oh, I've done so much already this week, I'm just going to take, these next few days off. That is what starts that cycle. Yes, it is okay to take breaks. I understand that. Yes, it is okay to take, ridiculous wake-up times out of your day eventually once you start making money. That's what I'm planning on doing. But you need to make sure you're still disciplined, right? I switched from 4:30 a.m. wake up to 5 a.m. wake up. And what did I do right after that? I started doing 75 hard, to where I'm hitting 2 workouts a day. I'm not eating any junk food for every 75 days. I'm locking in my water count, or not my water count, the amount of water I drink every single day. I'm locking in with my YouTube, locking in with my content, locking in with my trading, everything, right? So yeah, just make sure y'all are staying locked in for 90% of the time, right? 80% of the time. I like to have like a little rule, 80-20 rule, to where pretty much 80% of my day I'm locked in. That doesn't mean I'm working on my business 80% of the day, right? I work on my business probably 60% of the day, but the other 30% is me working out, me eating healthy, right? Me reading, all this different stuff. Okay, that's the other part. And then the 20%, 30% of the day, the last, 20% of it is me chilling out, right? Me enjoying my rest of my day, all this different stuff. Okay, and that's how I've learned to balance my life from going from 100% grind, wearing myself out, to now to the point where I can balance my life out a little bit and still not give into complacency and still work very, very hard. So make sure y'all are staying away from the complacency, staying away from laziness, and leading that down into a path that's very hard to come back from. So appreciate y'all, boys. If y'all want to join into the Creed Discord, it'll be left down in the description. But yeah, that's going to be the video for today. Hopefully y'all enjoyed, were able to get something from this and learn. And I will see y'all boys tomorrow. Peace out.